I'm with Jeff Leach, everybody. Welcome to Walk-Ins. Welcome. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me on the show. Again, apologies for being tardy. I am not normally like that, so
That's
I
quite all
feel
right.
deeply embarrassed.
I understand. Ththings happen. Life
British,
happens.
So I'm an apologetic as well, so I have to, bring it up immediately at the beginning of the podcast.
It's fine. Tell me about your comedy journey. I'm going to talk about this like it's ayahuasca.
That's a broad question.
I love hearing the stories of how people get into the mental illness factory that is stand-up comedy. It's always different.
Yeah, I mean, I got into stand-up comedy as a gateway drug from TV hosting for the BBC and Channel 4 and some other networks in Europe back into my acting. So I saw a lot of my... It doesn't work the same as the US. In the US, you can have the TV show, have the sitcom, write the book, host your own chat show, be in movies, etc. You can be the Ellen DeGeneres, kind of model. Whereas in England, it's very much still, what are you? Are you an actor? Are you a stand-up? Are you a TV presenter? And pick one of those things and go full hog at it. So I refused to do that. And I noticed that all my stand-up comedian friends got a lot more film and TV acting auditions than I did as a TV host. So that's why I started. And then I fell in love with it. And I was like, clearly I'm sick in the mind and I'll have to do this for the rest of my life now.
It's the worst.
Isn't it? And the best. Simultaneously the worst and the best thing
it is.
You can do, yeah.
I took a long break. Long for stand-up comics. I took a break and then I didn't think I'd go back. I had a baby.
How long was your break?
4 years, which was decent.
And that's sizable, yeah.
Yeah. The years just kind of kept stacking up and it was around the pandemic. So I fell in love, got married, had a baby as a geriatric. And then I recently was like, I kept saying I wanted to go back. And then I kind of hoped that I would bomb when I went back.
I hate this. I'm never doing it again.
Yeah, to be like, well, that was like my lesbian summer phase. I guess I can just put it behind me now. And no, unfortunately not.
No, You're still enjoying making love to comedy.
It's the way my brain works.
Lesbian phase as well. Why did you equate comedy to being a sexy lesbian for a summer? That's...
I don't know. It just seemed like that thing that I did that was like a phase, just tried it on. I mean, that's a long phase. It was a long 7-year phase or whatever, but it still was something that I was but I don't know. I think if your brain views the world in bits, I don't know how you ever really
get out of that.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I feel you. I wonder if I'll ever be able to stop doing stand-up. I have been questioning my place within the world of entertainment for quite a while.
How come?
And I don't think that it's a healthy career to be
in. No, it's not.
The more that I develop as a human being rather than just as a performer, the less I'm enamored by the industry in which I've spent so many years, 2 decades working professionally.
Yeah.
I also, I took psilocybin in a therapeutic way as opposed to a party drug. I've been taking it over the last year and had 3 really major mushroom trips. Kind of, I'm talking like hero doses, like 7 grams. Go away on my own to a cabin in the woods or a cabin in the desert and just sit there and really dive internally into my own mind. And I've had 2 major ego deaths, and I connected with a state of pure nirvana on the last trip. And I just came out of that and went, what am I doing? This is that pursuit of... There's different ways to create art, and I think that entertainment, or the machine of entertainment, once you're at a certain level, which I know we both are, it preys on ego and desperation and a lot of self-interest and money, a desire for money or fame, etc., which is under the blanket of all the things I just mentioned before. And I no longer need the money. I no longer...
That's nice.
The fame. Yeah, thank you. It's I made some good financial choices a few years ago for the first time in my entire life. It took me almost 40 years to get some fiscal responsibility, but it's paid off.
Good.
And so now the desperation's gone. And so I
Mm.
started to really look at, does this serve me as I try and evolve as a human being in a more dedicated fashion, ongoing.
I mean,
Anyway,
you could pivot to like the kind of what was that woman who did the like anti-comedy stand-up special from, I think she's Australian.
Hannah Gadsby.
Yes, you could pivot to
I
like
like how we knew as well. Literally put it, anti-comedy. I mean,
well, it was funny
yeah,
because Vulture did this.
it wasn't funny. That was the point. It was quite serious.
Right. It was Vulture wrote this whole kind of dystopian article about how we live in a post-comedy world. You know, like we now live in a time where basically comedy doesn't need to be funny, which to me is really
or it has to be regressive, short form and regressive, aimed at 11-year-old children, which is what
yeah.
most of the new stars of today seem to be blossoming from, that kind of pool of talent, which some of them are actually very talented stand-ups. You know, someone like Trevor Wallace, whatever you think of his short form content that brought him fame, which a lot of the characters he does, yeah, they do appeal to a younger audience and they're short form in content. But he's also a talented stand-up. He's good at what he does. Or, you know, we got old Matt, the jawline Rife, who, you know, seemingly burst out of nowhere, but has been doing stand-up for 14 years or something, since a very young man. Now, whether you like the comedy or not is a different matter.
Right.
But
Yeah.
but he's almost, you know, it's weird to see the difference in it's a changing landscape. Entertainment is constantly evolving and changing. I'm sure in another 5 years' time, no real human beings will be doing stand-up. There will be AI generated, you know, 3D rendered models that you can watch do stand-up, and then immediately after you can sidewind them into a sex program where you can have sex with them.
Oh God. So
I'm fine. I'm so
dark.
ready for that, Bridget.
Are
I'm so
you?
ready for it. Yeah, yeah. I
That
mean,
seems
that's the
very
niche that I've been
against.
looking to fill for a while.
It's funny, like I have so many thoughts. So first of all, I feel like every podcast I do lately, I end up talking to people about their mushroom trips. So there's an explosion of psilocybin use, clearly. And the last guy I talked to, actually, he was talking about how he had a very long conversation with a tree. And I have
Amateur. He's just started. He's just started his journey. I talked to God the last time. I became one with the one energy of the entire cosmos. It was fascinating.
It is the best, that connection when you come out of it and you have those ego deaths, as you've talked about. Where does it leave you, you know, today on this Wednesday afternoon? Where are you really able to leave comedy? Do you feel like it's an art? I mean, I'm very much in a process of like reevaluating a lot of this stuff for myself. And so I'm interested to, I don't know. I've been thinking so much about all this stuff. I also recently watched the Supermodels documentary on Apple Plus about the like Cindy Crawford, Naomi Campbell, the four.
You've been considering a career change into that world.
Yes, obviously. But I was thinking about how I was like, is Kim Kardashian the last icon? Like, I was thinking about how there aren't really.
I hope not. Jesus
Taylor
Christ.
Swift, maybe?
What?
Maybe Taylor Swift.
What? Bridget, you're such a white woman. To consider Taylor Swift an icon. I mean, come on. She is an incredible businesswoman. No, she's a businesswoman. She's a brilliant businesswoman. She is a very average performer, in my opinion. She's a very average performer. She can't really dance that well. She's singing voices, whatever. She's a product of a brilliant machine, but she's a great businesswoman. She knows how to run her business, and I admire that.
Who do you think has longevity as an icon who's young right now?
As an icon?
Yes.
From what world? It depends what world you're talking about. You know, I'm a big lover of hip hop, for instance. I think that Tobe Nwigwe is one of the most incredible new artists. Tyler, the Creator, is a young man who is an icon in the world of hip hop and has, you know, done some incredible stuff in such a short period of time. So by the time he's 70, I'm going to be astounded to see what he's doing. He probably won't. He'll be making movies, I'm sure, something different. He'll be directing feature lengths or something. So there's icons within all these different worlds. They're not necessarily don't have the mainstream success though you're talking about. I understand when you mentioned Taylor Swift, it's not necessarily because you're a hardcore Swiftie. It's because the woman sells out stadiums around the world ongoing and has done for the last decade and will continue to do so probably.
Yeah, I
Um,
think too of just that household name recognition, which
sure.
is everything. Sure, like you mentioned, there are all these kind of niche icons and people who can be icons within their whatever field they might be in. But I don't know. Does like your mom know their name?
No, but then I think that that's a problem. That is a problem with the entertainment industry.
Hmm.
To be iconic doesn't mean to be known by everyone in the world. Maybe it does as a dictionary definition. I would have to look it up. But for me, iconic art and iconic creation isn't about being known by someone's grandma, even if you're a hip hop artist, in the States. You don't need to be known by a British grandma back in England. It's about changing the way that entire art form looks at its own art. At least growing something new within that space, and becoming identifiable as a leader of the art within that space.
Hmm.
And that's what the ego disc has done to me is go like, dude, you can create comedy in any way you like, and for whatever reason, you don't need to ensure that you get your Netflix special, and then you go and do your 1 hour on Comedy Central, and then, maybe then you get to write your own TV show. And if that does okay, then maybe you get to be in a movie and then blah, 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 blah. No, that's the machine. And there's certain gatekeepers who will ensure that only certain people go through that machine. And then look, I'll give you an example. Cat Williams, this is someone who has been very much newsworthy over the 2024 January period for
Yes.
his comments about vast different aspects of the industry, and also a bunch of people he lit up and publicly called out on the Shay podcast,
Hmm.
Shannon Shay, right?
Hmm.
Now, uh, Cat Williams is an icon, but not everyone knows him, not neither in the industry nor in mainstream sort of home life, but he's an iconic character. He's an iconic performer. Um, and that's kind of the point. Like, you don't necessarily need that level of mainstream success to also change the very shape of the thing that you're in. Did you out of interest and no judgment if you did not, did you manage to actually watch my comedy special, my comedy spectacular?
I did. I watched a lot of it, and then my daughter interrupted the
Sorry.
end of it.
So you got partway through the stand up and then you turned it off.
No, no, no. I have a toddler.
No, understood. Did you get to watch the animation segment or the
That
rap
was
music
the
video segment
No,
or
those were the parts that I missed. I watched a lot of the stuff at the Comedy Cellar, that portion, and I loved your like just energy.
That's very sweet of you. Thank you. And
I
and
just
whether
like
you like
to
the material or not, I mean, it's this is the thing. See, like, there's an example. I created a 1 hour piece. It's a movie. It's a 1 hour movie, and it's the whole storyline. There's a dramatic dialogue or dramedy dialogue that runs throughout, which is me in conflict with my own ego and really having a conversation through of what that means and
I
and how
loved the
I free
beginning of
myself from
it
that.
too.
Thank you. Well, that runs throughout, and then there's these other segments. So at one point, you go into a series of animation where I voice all four characters, and they represent different mental health issues that I've had over the years. But it's still funny. It's a funny 3.5 minute skit. Then there's a rap music video about the concept of doing anything and wanting to do everything. And I might be a 39-year-old white boy from London. But if I want to do a rap music video, I'm going to do a rap music video. And if I want to marry an alien and become God Eternal and end the cosmos, I could do that too. And that's kind of what the rap music video is about. And then there's crowd work at the end, which makes it more human and empathizes with the connection between artist and audience. And then the ending is very, very involved. I won't ruin it for you if you get a chance to watch the
No,
whole
I'm
thing.
going. I'm
There's
going
a
to finish
concept
it.
like there's a concept like I tried to create something completely different in the space of comedy, as a 1 hour special. This is not like any other special that's ever been released, ever in the history of comedy specials. But you didn't watch the whole thing through, and I understand why. I understand why you have other responsibilities, but a lot of people won't. They'll watch the beginning, they'll see some of the stand up, they go cool, and then they get bored after 25 minutes because they don't have the attention span. That's not who I'm creating that art for. I'm creating that art for people who go, I want to see someone, a multifaceted performer, redefine what it is to release a 1 hour comedy special, a debut comedy special.
Yeah,
And
I wish I
for
had
those
a
people who
more less basic excuse.
no, that's all right. That's okay. And I like but people who watch the whole thing through hopefully walk away from that experience going, "Oh, cool, that changed me in some way. That had more impact than just ha 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 ha. This is very funny for 40 minutes, and then there's like a top and tail of like whatever 45 minutes, and then 5 minutes at the beginning, 5 minutes at the end, where I'm like walking into the comedy store like, hey, I'm a comedian in New York City, and then which is what the identikit is for every other comedy special.
Right.
This is the point. I had a choice there. I had offers from platforms. There were people who wanted to purchase it, and I refused them because we were on strike at the time as SAG-AFTRA performers and union members, and I didn't want to give something that I'd worked that hard on. I didn't need their money.
Yeah.
I didn't want to give something that I'd worked so hard on for a year and a half making that was so different and so unique to a platform that didn't even want to pay artists properly for the work they do that makes that platform billions of dollars every year.
Yeah.
And so I decided to self-release. Now, it might have been the wrong decision for my career, because as every single person, including my wonderful PR, has told me, like, why didn't you sell this shit? What's wrong with you? But I don't care. I don't care anymore about mainstream success. It's about like releasing a piece of art exactly the way I want to release it to an audience that hopefully will find it. And I hope eventually that special, it's done all right. It's at like almost 300,000 views. I hope at some point it will find a bigger audience because of some other mainstream project that I do. That then they'll go back and watch that and go, oh shit, this was really good. This was really different. This was something quite unique in the space. And we didn't really give it the time we should have done at the time. But you have to like not care about the wrong things, I think.
Trust me. I mean, I've said no to a lot of money that would have made my life a lot more comfortable and easy in the past couple of years, just so that I can maintain some kind of independence, the ability to put out what I want to put out, say what I want to say, and not feel beholden to not just any kind of
sponsor or a brand or a
sponsor, brand,
or
platform, or audience. I think audience capture is very real. You end up.
We need those though. We need one of those. That's the only thing we do need for art to be enjoyed.
But I think we're in
an audience to receive it.
You do, but I think we're in an interesting time where audience capture, and I've talked to a lot of journalists about this. Not so many performers actually, but it happens to performers too. I think it's a very real thing, and you can train your audience to expect the unexpected and be open-minded and know that, like we always say on my show Dumpster Fire, I'm like, we're making burgers out of your sacred cows. So just know that, and not only, and mine too, but you have to. It would be very easy to get trapped into a place where you have people thinking you are one way because they saw one thing of yours.
TikTok is a perfect example of what you're describing, becoming beholden to your audience because the algorithm feeds them particular stuff. Like my TikTok, I think I have about 250,000 followers, right? They're not there for my stand-up. That is 100% certain. They're there because I portrayed a video game character that was quite iconic in a video game called Call of Duty a few years ago. And they're there because I'm Ghost from Call of Duty. That's why they're there. Because I see how if I post something about video games, it gets loads of engagement. If I posted a Ghost thing, I'd get hundreds of thousands of views on it. If I post stand-up clips, maybe like 2 to 10,000 maybe likes,
right.
Maybe if I'm lucky. You know what I mean? And so, yes, I understand the fear of being beholden to an audience. But I also think if you just keep consistently putting out great stuff, it finds its audience eventually. It does.
Yeah. Although if it's like, I know that I've had a lot of business people look at all of my content and go, you're confusing the algorithm, because I do put out so many different things, and I'm like, good, but they're like, no, you're never
Are you confusing yourself, or do you feel fulfilled yourself? Because if If it's the
I feel
latter, then it doesn't
good.
matter. It's
It's
great.
funny. I had to I just started doing reels on Instagram. I'm not really into Instagram, but the more basic I become, the more I like Instagram. And one went viral, and it was, and I think it attracted like a certain kind of audience. And then yesterday I put up a reel and I lost, 100 or 200 followers, and I was like, good.
What was the the clip out of interest?
The clip that went viral was about, I was making fun of how like math is racist now. I was like,
Okay, there
oh,
you go.
now
So there you go.
apparently
You got some
math is
buzzwords in
racist.
there, racism, and that
And
kind of stuff.
then
Yeah, yeah.
it was just because we've been doing dumpster fires since 2019, for almost 5 years. And I've always treated it like a show. I have end credits. I thank people. And people are like, why are you treating this like a show on YouTube? This is not, like, you've got to open this way. You've got to do these things for this platform. And so then I started saying, like, well, let's just repackage. There are lots of little clips we can make. We're just not making it. Maybe it's in the wrong package. So I'm like, maybe we put some on TikTok and on Reels and whatever, like, who cares? And I started doing that short form, and it's fun. I actually like the short form videos, but I'm not generally the kind of person that likes to just rile people up for the sake of riling them up in that short form like way, because I think it misrepresents a lot of what I'm trying to do.
I feel you.
And yet,
Yeah, here we are.
And yet here we are. I don't know.
I mean, that's what does it. Listen, we could sit on this podcast right now and we could go, fuck Amy Schumer, right? And fuck Dave Chappelle, right? And actually, you know what? Cat Williams, that little bitch as well. Fuck him too.
Right.
And just clip that out. Those few words, you stick that
right.
out to the reel, and people go, whoa, what's that? What's happening? Let's go cancel him, or let's go, argue in the comment section.
Mm-hmm.
But we're being conditioned. I think this is not on the realm of comedy right now, but the more that I look at the world at a macro level, and that means everything: finance, politics, health, healthcare, medication, pharmaceutical industry, education as well. As more and more that I look, I go, oh God, it's so obvious. Like, so if you've been privileged enough to be afforded a decent education, which I know not everyone can be, or if you have the street smarts and you've traveled enough, met enough different types of people, and talked to enough different types of people, it's all controlled. It's all controlled. It's where we are mollycoddled, we are pushed and coerced and corralled into believing certain things, thinking certain things about other people. The global division that we see now between people, and I think there's a reactive movement to that, which is why so many people probably have been taking psilocybin, and why so many people are going, maybe we can find ways to create content that unifies people rather than divides them, because we are more alike than different in every way.
This is what I always say. I just wrote a piece this past summer about how real America is the middle seat and coach. I'm like, all these people who are trying to divide us are rich. Like, they're all very wealtry, and the people who are like
top level control,
Yeah, it's very
your BlackRocks and your Vanguard, you're literally BlackRock, Vanguard, Blackstone. These guys run the world, which is obvious now to enough people, and by the way, I have a very strange conspiracy theory on what will happen next. What the next thing will be, right? So currently there is this reactive movement against, right now it's been politics for a long time, right and left. What are you? You're a Republican, or are you're a racist Republican, or are you a libtard cuck liberal? What are you? And you have to pick a side. It used to be, it still is in a lot of areas, but it used to be more heavily focused on racial divides or sexuality divides. So right now, trans issue is probably the latest version of that. But as people get more and more aware of the fact that we're all in servitude, we're all slaves to a system, and we're literally born into it. Financial scheme is just a Ponzi scheme. Finance and capitalism is a Ponzi scheme we all buy into. Once people start realizing that more, I feel like the top tier controllers are recognizing only a slight loss of control over how easily manipulated the entire populace is. Most people still are easily manipulated, but the sharing of information over the internet means that it's easy to mislead people, but there's also pockets and avenues for people to educate one another in a very free-form manner. And that's been happening. So how do you unify a bunch of people who are starting to go, you know what? All politicians are fucking corrupt and they're all in the pockets of
That's what
lobbyists.
I'm seeing.
And right and left, they don't give a shit about any of us. They're
Mhm.
all, this is not, we're not protected here.
Mm.
How do you control a populace that is starting to feel that way about it, or starting to, you know, intermingle and procreate with people who are completely aesthetically different to them, or accept people's pronouns irrespective of whether they're on board with it or not, whatever. You have to create a bigger fear, a bigger division, something that unifies everyone under your banner of control. Now, if you didn't already know, how many parts of the UAFs, you know, unidentified aerial phenomenon, or whatever, or UAPs, sorry, how much of that information has started to be publicly given out in Congress by officials sanctioned by the US government and the Department, the DoD, and NASA, and all of these entities that used to, what, even just 50 years ago or 30 years ago, used to say, if someone said that aliens exist, or UFOs exist, they would go crazy, conspiracy theorist, tinfoil hat lunatic, and ridicule them. And now they've revealed there's actually like government agencies that led the charge on doing those things to mislead people in the media. Now they have categorically accepted and publicly stated that yes, we have recovered vessels from off-planet vessels. 120 in the US alone UAPs have been recovered. And the biggest thing that really kind of stimulates debate is, oh, we also recovered a pilot not of this planet. That was the way they described it.
Yeah.
So what they're basically saying is, yeah, spaceships exist, mate. And so do aliens. There are sentient races out there that are far more advanced than us that have flown to this planet in a spaceship, and we've recovered that shit. They've publicly said that in Congress. So why would they drip feed that information to us at this time in human civilization's development, or should we say devolution? You know, because I think that's the easiest way to control people as the next step. If it ever gets too bad, if the world starts getting too angry, if it feels like there's too many civil uprisings coming, how do you immediately snap everyone back into a state of control and servitude? Well, a little ship flies down, blows up a probably poverty-stricken, mostly populated by people of color, because that's who they generally seem to use as the testing grounds for all of their, you know, nefarious activities. Spaceship comes over, zaps an area of town, kills a few thousand people, and then, you know, the UN and the US Air Force and even Russia get on board. All of them come together to fly some ships and take down, you know, with their fighter jets, take down this vessel. They recover the vessel. They make public announcements. We will protect the Earth from this existential threat of other sentient life that clearly means us harm. And that's how you control people for the next 1,000 years. That's how you get them to work even harder and dig out more of the various, you know, wealth building metals and gems that you need. And that's how you do it. You know, we had free energy almost 100 years ago. You know, 0 point energy has been developed and patented by a bunch of scientists, and every single one of them that does that ends up having a sudden change of heart and shoots themselves in the head in a suspicious manner, or gets a sudden heart issue.
You have been doing a lot of mushrooms.
No, I've just been doing research, because you
No,
can
I
look
know.
for stuff, and you can go and find
I think
the
it's
official
climate. The
police
climate,
records.
though. I mean, they're already.
Oh, the climate will kill us before anything.
No, but I mean, I think that's the existential threat they're trying to manufacture to control everyone right now.
That's not existential. That's happening. There's a reason why Zuckerberg is building an underground bunker mansion expanse, you know, underground village in Hawaii on the private land he owns. There's a reason why people like these billionaires, like what's his name, Mark Cuban, are selling some of their largest assets and accruing wealth to ensure that they have enough seats on those private vessels that Elon Musk and NASA have developed and Richard Branson are developing, so they can ensure that when the world ends up underwater, which it invariably will, again, as it has done 2 or 3 times previously. When we go through that next ice age, either you're going to go above it, where you're sort of safe from it for a little while, or you go underground and sort of hide out there for a period of time, and then they do the cycle all over again.
Yeah.
Every major civilization throughout history, every single one, every major religion and theological text has outlined this giant flood. For even if they didn't have any relationship, even if they were on opposite sides of the planet and unable to communicate those ideas. So I think it's too many coincidences, and that's the problem of looking at the world from a top down macro level. However, here's the beauty, Bridget, for all of us. It doesn't matter because we're all just tiny pieces of dust in an endless expanse of pieces of dust. And we mean nothing and we mean everything. We're all related, we're all one energy, and we're also nothing. So it doesn't really matter. That's just the way it's meant to go on this planet over and over again on repeat. So as long as you work on yourself and elevate yourself and do as many good things as you can over the course of your life to help others and benefit others in servitude to them, then you get to rejoin that one energy and go and float around the cosmos and do something else.
Do you have kids?
Not yet. I
Mm.
did raise a child. I raised someone else's child for 4.5 years, a little girl, and that was one of the most fulfilling experiences of my entire life.
Mm. Yeah, I feel like having a child has changed a lot of that perspective for me a little bit.
Tell me, in what way?
Just I totally hear what you're saying. I think in my 20s I was very, very, and not to like minimize it at all. I think that you sound like me when I was like doing a lot of mushrooms and I was connected to the universe, and I don't think a part of me has abandoned that, but I do feel like something happened when I had a kid. And I've said that, I just recently said this on another podcast, like I have literal skin in the game in the future in a way that I didn't. I used to be like, well, good luck, everybody. We can all just float back into the ether and I'll do my best to leave the planet. But now I feel like, oh, I'm leaving, hopefully. I'm leaving someone actually behind. Do I need to secure her a seat on the on the spaceship? I don't.
I hear what you're saying. My response would be that I hear what you're saying, and vice versa. I don't take it as patronizing. I'm not in my 20s and taking mushrooms all the time. I've done 3 psilocybin trips.
Yeah. No, I'm not.
Specific. No. But I want to make it clear that I get what you're saying. I see what I've let go of is I've accepted my lack of control over those things.
Yeah.
You cannot control that.
No,
You're
I
not
can't.
able to control it in a singular manner, or even if you rallied 1 million people together to try and impact change to ensure that the planet survives long enough for your child to grow up and have her own children or family and get to experience that life. You don't have the power to impact that change in any way, shape, or form. And this is what my comments don't come because I've taken mushrooms and kissed the thighs of God and decided that it's inside all of us and we're all part of it. It doesn't come from that. It comes from conversations with billionaires and talking to them about ecological change. It comes with conversations with high-ranking military professionals and veterans and asking them what's really going on behind closed doors, which they'll always tell you if you're close enough to them and they've had a couple of drinks. It's because they all want to tell the story of what they experienced. It comes from talking to friends in the financial industry who have very categorically sat down with me and really explained how much of a fucking Ponzi scheme it is and how many loopholes there are and how we're all being shafted into servitude. So understanding all of those things, I realize the planet is destined. We are fucked. This is where George Carlin came to at the end of his life, by the way, and why his comedy changed in the last 10 years of his career. It wasn't because he
seems
took
so
mushrooms.
bitter, though.
He wasn't bitter. He just accepted that he couldn't save humanity. Now, I think there's a lot of people in comedy and in entertainment in general, myself included, for the majority of my child and adult life, who had hero complexes. I wanted to save the world. I thought I was the protagonist of my story. I thought I'm the main character and I could have some major impact and change it for everyone for the better. I can't. I'm not. And I'm unable to. and neither are you. You're not able to protect your child from anything in the world. And that's the hardest thing for a mother or a father to accept, especially a mother, because she is literally born of your body.
Mm-hmm.
The concept that you can't protect her from those things. Now, what you can do is you can educate her. You can inspire her to follow her passions and to make the best of the life that she has on this planet. But the simple fact is, we're all fucked. And Carlin knew that because he looked enough at history. He read the text that I read. He did enough deep dives to go into that research. And I'm not talking about some blog, funkyalienstruth.com. I'm not looking at documentaries on Netflix to find my information. I'm looking at the oldest texts that are available to us. I'm looking at the theological texts that span the world. I'm looking at scientific studies being done by MIT professors and residents. I'm looking at that kind of information. I'm looking at publicly available police records of the cases of the deaths or murders of these scientists that have already created free energy for us. We are fucked. We are controlled. We are in a state of servitude. So you got two options. Either you can spend your life worrying about that and being concerned, how do I make this better for my daughter? How possibly can I do that? Or you let go of that and understand you can't. And all you can do is be present whilst you are here on this planet with your child and enjoy every single moment you can with them, which is what I do with my dog on a daily basis. I try and do that as much as possible and take myself out of my own mind. And
a message of optimism for my child. We're all fucked.
But this is it. It's not about optimism. You're not in control of whether things go well or badly. And even on a personal, let's take it down to a micro level now, to an individual rather than the entire planet and population. For an individual, I spent so much of my life being concerned about how do I make life better? How do I do this? How do I do that? And by holding on to the concept that I had control or power to do those things, as opposed to knowing that bad things don't happen to me. It's just life. It's just a journey. There's bad things and there's good things, and they're going to come through your path. And if you spend less time holding on to the concern about the bad things and how you can change those, and more time living presently and going, all right, something bad just happened. That sucks. That hurts. My best friend killed himself. 3 weeks later, my dad dies from alcoholism. That was my life a year ago. And I was holding on to that. How could I have made that better? How could I have changed that? How can I impact more change for others in that way? And blah, 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 blah. And instead of just going, that's what's happened, process it, be empathetic to that experience, and accept that you need to live presently and focus on what the next positive is instead. Because the more you reach out for that positive, optimistic mindset, certainly, you will find your next positive experience. And then you can get back to being a better version of yourself for other people. That's how I see it. It's got nothing to do with tripping balls and feeling like, oh man, I connected with my higher power, dude. It really doesn't. That just was the gateway, the catalyst to allow me to stop being in my own mind. And I think that's what loss of an ego is. Truly, loss of an ego. You can't control what happens to your child, especially not after you're gone.
Yeah,
so let go of it. Let go of it.
How much about my story do you know?
Very little, I'll be honest.
I was going to ask you another question too. Wait,
don't leave that open-ended. There was obviously some more about your story that I need to know. That
oh no, there's nothing. I was just curious. It was just a curiosity. So I'm just trying to be clear about how I cannot care about money in this Ponzi scheme.
Sure, you have to understand that it is one. Here's an example. Let's talk about money very briefly. I grew up in a very working class family, right? My mum and dad. Mum grew up under Ceausescu's reign in Romania and Bucharest, so under a communist dictatorship, and had nothing. Dad grew up in East End of London under the sound of the Bow Bells. He's a proper Cockney, official Cockney. It's a very working class parents. They worked themselves to the bone to bring us up to a sort of working middle class existence. We had a little holiday every year. We had a roof over our heads. I went to a decent school, but didn't pay all the school fees because I got a scholarship. So they drilled into me education from day dot so I could get the scholarship to get into the good school, despite not being able to afford going there. And I got raised with a very middle class, working class mindset of what money is. And that's how 99.999% of the population are brought up. working or middle class, understanding you work hard, you stack a little bit of cash, you put it in a bank to earn some savings or a Roth IRA, or get your 401k and get some health insurance. You need that, and then you got to make sure that you save enough money to maybe get a mortgage for your house, and then you pay that off for the next 25 years, 35 years, and then maybe you got something to leave to your kids, and blah blah blah. That's not how rich people look at money. They don't look at it like that. Warren Buffett famously said if he could have changed anything in terms to make more money over the course of his life, he wouldn't have bought any properties, because he knows that he could have made more money just on the stock market. I realized a few years ago that I have been taught to never ask questions about money of people. And I think most people are like that. It's rude. You don't ask people how much they paid for their house. You don't ask them what their mortgage is. You don't ask people how they save money or invest it. That's rude. It's rude. When I got sober, from alcohol, I should say, because clearly I take hallucinogens every now and then. When I gave up booze for almost 5 years ago, I had to stop lying to myself, and I had to start living transparently. And I live transparently with everyone I meet now, which is sometimes I realize a little, it can be a little much for some people, and I respect that. One part of that, though, is that I decided if I wanted to learn something and if I didn't know about it, I'm going to always tell people, I don't know what that means. I don't know what that is. Could you please educate me on this? Because I want to be a student of life until the day I die. So a few years ago, I made some money on that video game. Actually, not on the video game, but on everything I did surrounding the video game. Live streaming every day, sponsorships, etc., etc., etc. And I stacked a sizable chunk of money. And I talked to one of my friends who's a day trader. And I said, listen, I've been wealthy maybe 3 times in my life, and the last 2 times I spent it on coke and women and traveling the world. This time, I'm not doing any of those things. So how do I make this money generate more money for me? Because I'm in a profession that is so dangerously back and forth. 1 month you're rich, the next month you can't pay your rent. And just by asking that question, I opened myself up to a world I didn't even know was possible. And he has helped me to invest in a way where we can generate just trading futures on the S&P 500, roughly around 50% annually on my money, pre-tax. You got to give the mob their money as well. Do you know what I mean? You got to give them their 20% of that, or 25% of that. And so now I'm in a position where annually my profits technically could allow me to never have to work ever again for the rest of my life. That's possible for anyone. You just have to start thinking about money like a rich person thinks about money. Because when you put your money in a bank savings account,
nothing.
It earns what, 0.3, maybe 3% APR if it's a top tier account. If you put it in long-term investments, you buy some VOO and VTI and stuff like that kind of continuously will go up as inflation goes up with the stock market. You might make maybe 5 to 8%, maybe 10%. Maybe you get a good trader who can do some lucky trades and you get like 13% over the year. Still great. But the banks are not doing that with your money. They're not doing the same thing. They're taking that money and they're investing it the way that my guy does, to try and generate, following the up and downs of the stock market every single day, trying to generate a percentage revenue, which for my guy it's 0.2% daily on that money. And they're making 60% or 50 to 70% money every single year on your money. It's insane. Why are we not getting that money? Because they don't want us rich. They don't want us educated to these things.
It is that book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Yeah. So again, you can't change it for everyone, but you can spread a little bit of knowledge about it. And you can also just ask questions. I don't know what your financial situation is, what your foundation of security is. But I know that you've probably got some really rich friends, and I imagine you've probably never asked them, hey, you're wealthy. You're a lot more wealthy than me. How do you get wealthy like that? Could you impart some knowledge? Would you teach me something that I'm probably doing wrong with my money and managing my finances or my savings or whatever? And they might say to you, yeah, stop paying into a mortgage, go rent a place and take all that money, all that equity and go and stick it into this. That's what they might tell you. Now, that could be a big shift for you. It might not be the change you want. It might not give you mentally the stability that you're looking for as a mother and as, having a child, and you need a home and space.
They actually told me to stop renting.
Oh, really?
I mean, I don't know why you would assume I wouldn't ask them.
Questions. I'm sorry. When I say I don't mean you specifically necessarily. I mean like you, the general public. But yes. I do, I'm making gross generalizations. I apologize.
Yeah, a lot of people said to own what you can, so there's the sense of like ownership of,
You don't
be-
own any of that shit, though. You
yeah,
don't own
not
it.
really. I mean, if I didn't
You
pay
don't own it.
taxes, they'd take it away.
Well, also, do you own the land that your house is on?
I mean, does anyone? Just don't pay
Some
taxes,
people do, yeah. Some people own the land, and then when they own the land, they still have to pay
property taxes.
money on it every single month.
Well, that's
yeah.
what I mean. If
Yeah.
nobody really owns the land, really, if you want to go down that rabbit hole, but
absolutely. And at any time, a government could come and just take it back from you because they've got more men, more guns, and more power to just come in and wipe you off the face of the planet if that's what they want.
Yeah,
which has happened throughout history as well. So,
but I do
really,
think that renting is pissing away money in a certain context too, particularly
not really.
if
You need a place to live. You need a roof over your head. So renting is just a necessity, but it frees up equity to do other things with that money. I mean, look, there's a reason why I'm not a huge fan of cryptocurrency. I don't put a lot of stock in 99.9% of them.
I
But
mean,
Bitcoin,
it
the
frees
reason why,
up equity if you have extra money.
well, but you got money and you're paying into a mortgage, and you had to put money down to get that property, correct?
Right.
Maybe $100,000 to $200,000 at least.
Right. It's just a asset transfer from my perspective. Maybe I could have taken that equity and done something like what you're doing, although that would be like phase 2 for me, I guess. So from the people who I do talk to about this, who are much richer than me, that would be something that I do in phase 2 of the like plan to create wealth. That's just what they told me.
Are those people multi-millionaires? I'm talking like, sort of 20 mil.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
They're very.
Maybe they're not telling you everything. Maybe they don't want you to be part of that club.
I don't think so. They're all homeowners. They're not necessarily.
Oh, sure, because they got the money to just buy a property straight up and not have to worry about it. I mean, like what I'm saying is like, yeah, that doesn't sound like the advice that I've been given by. I've talked to. I've only met 3 billionaires that have talked openly to me about these things, and that was not their advice. But again, I don't know. It's yes, there's a different path for everyone. I fully understand that, and everyone's going to have different experiences and advice. I'm just saying, like, the normal ways that we're taught to view money and how we manage it, what we're meant to spend our lives working towards. You can give that shit up. The happiest people I know are not the wealthiest either. They're not the wealthiest people. They're the people who have. I don't know if you've watched this. There's a documentary called Centennials, which looks at blue zones. Did you see that?
I did.
Great. The value of those people, most of those people were not immensely wealthy.
Yeah.
They just had purpose every day, and they had connection and community. They had a village, they had that village living, which is why so many, I think, millennials, especially people in my bracket, are all going and moving out to go and try and buy, 1 to 10 acres of land and set up communal living situations and grow their own vegetables. Because they're like, I'm fed up of eating GMO fucking veggies, that even your veggies aren't good for you anymore. Do you know what I mean? Like, I want to go and grow my own stuff. I want a simpler life. I want to wake up every day with purpose and drive, and maybe then, and fresh air. Maybe then I will, get to live a life of value. And that's, again, another place that has caused conflict for me with regards to entertainment, because I'm going, well, I think I probably want to be out in the woods. I don't know. Maybe I'm just describing myself as a lunatic survivalist. I guess that could be it.
I mean, that's very common, though. I think everyone, that one of the pushes that, there is a large push for people to rent, which is the top-down push of places like BlackRock buying all the houses and renting them to people so that they never have that path to community or home ownership or investing in an actual place. And sure, maybe you don't own your land because of property taxes, which I completely understand. But I do think it's even more unsettling, this kind of you will own nothing mentality as well, which is seems disempowering to people. That doesn't seem like it's necessarily empowering people
That's because
to.
we've been taught the wrong things. We've been taught the wrong things that will empower us. Owning your home, that empowers you. It doesn't. It really doesn't. Owning your own traumas from your childhood and moving beyond those, that empowers you. Looking internally more and more and more. We're pushed to look external constantly in every facet of our human lives. And that's why we're so easily misled. That's why we're so divided. There's a reason why kids spend their entire time staring at a screen and laughing at other people's misfortune or calling each other terrible names in the comment sections. And it's not just children; it's like grown adults doing that. Because we're not taught that the biggest value we have is internal. That's where value really lays,
Mm-hmm.
is within oneself. Um, Personally, I'm trying to sort of find that more, but I also realize I'm in a privileged position to be able to do that at this point in my life. And that's not necessarily a privilege that is afforded to everyone, you know? I'd
Yeah.
be interested to know how I would think about the world if I wasn't given a good education, or if I hadn't been able to travel a bit and meet people from different backgrounds and races and religions and talk to them and meet them and connect with them. I
Or
might be a
even,
very different person, you know?
yeah. Or even if you were in a position where you didn't have equity from whatever to invest and not have to worry about money, and you have to provide for a family, and that's, that weighs upon you and puts you in a different kind of position than you might be in. So,
Well, I actually do provide for a family, just not a child, you know. I do provide
right.
for other people in my family, and I have done in the past for other people's children, like notably in that
Right,
relationship.
right, right.
And I have other dependents, you know. I know it's a dog, it's a very different thing. But you know, there's ongoing states of care that I have to provide for other people.
Mhm.
And I didn't like have that equity. It didn't land in my lap. Do you know what I mean?
Mhm.
It was something
Yeah.
I went, I need to develop this. I need to build this. Let me really look at what I'm doing. Let me be really truthful with myself about how I'm generating money or how I'm doing work or what I'm trying to achieve. And let
Yeah.
me change my mindset to to gravitate towards a place where I have that option.
Yeah.
And it was an ongoing process. It wasn't like an overnight fix either.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I've definitely traveled the world, but I was very poor. So I had that. I was like I don't know. It
I heard
was
that on one of your previous podcasts. Yeah, you were talking to actually, it might be the last one with a young lady who you shared your kind of, you were in a poor area, but it was an affluent area, but you were the poorest within that kind of affluent area or something like that, right?
Yeah, and well, that was more my upbringing. I think it was like yours, just like a little bit middle class plus, maybe, not upper middle class. I think I was raised more around extreme wealth and upper middle class. And but when I was traveling around the world, I was always kind of woofing and making. I would basically just try and work for my room and board, and I was just writing about this yesterday in Sri Lanka, just how happy the people were.
Yeah, the
They
more
just
simple the living,
it was
and
so simple.
also because you wake up every day. Those people wake up every day and go, I know what I'm doing today. My job is to grow these crops
Mhm.
for my village.
Mhm.
And I love what I do, and I know everything about all these different plants and stuff. I'm connected to the earth. I'm connected to my community, and I provide a valuable service for other people every day. That's where it comes from, is service. That's why I think so many people who end up leaving the entertainment industry, with whatever level of success that may be, so many of them end up rescuing dogs, opening up shelters for dogs or something like that, or they end up going and doing charitable work as their main job. And I think or they end up, killing themselves because they were so desperate to achieve a state of fame, fortune, success, and when that's not afforded to them, that it's soul crushing.
Yeah.
Um, and that's why I say I don't know if it's a healthy endeavor for anyone to be involved in the world of entertainment.
It's funny, the supermodels, most of them ended up in being of service, like starting these amazing organizations. And Naomi Campbell is now determined to give opportunities to all the people in Africa and the designers and the fashion and the stuff that she felt was ignored when they were coming up. And
Right.
Christy
As long as you don't
Turlington.
look her directly in the eye, otherwise she will smack you.
Christy Turlington started a whole, nonprofit for women who are pregnant, and because she had a kind of sounds like near-death experience during her first childbirth. And so, yeah, they've all ended up kind of being of service after all of those years of being known for their beauty. And it is a good path, I guess, if you have had all that luck and privilege and opportunity to take and give it back to the world.
Absolutely.
That was really when I got sober. The I think first real lesson that became apparent in early sobriety was how much I got from cleaning the ashtrays out and like making coffee. And I had to go to Costco and get the cream, and I effing hate Costco. It gives me an anxiety attack every time.
Whoa. I will not hear a bad word said about Costco. How very dare you, madam? That is an institution has been providing a service to people for a lot longer than we have.
I just get panic attacks in that place. And I still went and got the cream.
Magical Wonderland is better than Disneyland. How dare you?
I mean, this is when I go into my mushroom trip, brain.
The $1.50 hot dog drink combo. You're ignoring the most important
I'm like,
facets
everything in here is going to end up in a landfill. This is not sustainable. It's like the robot calculations start occurring in my brain of how does this all pan out?
Unbelievable. I'm a proud Costco member. And
I am too.
You just hate going in it.
Well, yeah, and it was in California at the time, and the stuff stacked to the ceilings in an earthquake zone. I was like, how ironic to be crushed by tons of cans in an earthquake. Seems like a...
Crushed by cans at Costco. It's a lovely bit of alliteration. I love it.
It's my hip-hop album
that's going to be your next comedy
out.
Special. Yeah, exactly.
I was just thinking about, That's
actually how I want to go, by the way.
That's how I want to go.
I want to be buried alive by coffee
at a Costco.
In the Costco, yeah.
I recently just did a mix because I was thinking about, you should send me all your good new hip hop, because I am the child of the 2005, 2006 era, and I just still feel like it was just the best.
Spotify playlists I have that will give you a nice smorgasbord.
Oh, good.
All that's on offer, yeah.
I'll send you the one I just made, because it was more of a like retrospective. I was like, I'm missing all my hip hop. Well, this has been a journey. So
it has. Is that where we're leaving it? All right, there you go. All right.
Yeah, no.
The hip hop.
I want to ask you the same two questions I ask everyone at the end of my podcast. What's your biggest defect of character?
Oh, that's a good question. That's a good question that I can actually easily answer, believe it or not. I've been working on eradicating all of my failings. The latest one that I have conquered completely is emotional regulation in all things. So never dysregulating, even if I'm deeply hurt or upset or have been wronged by someone I love very much. The next one is I'm working on, which I'm sure a lot of your listeners will comment on, is monologuing. I need to learn to allow even more room for other people to speak. I talk a lot, and
what does that look like? Not allowing for emotional dysregulation. Like how does it?
So I haven't for many years, ever let my I've been doing therapy for quite a few years. The mushrooms also helped with this process, but basically I realized that I was still just a sensitive little boy who I was trying to protect, a sensitive little boy who wasn't protected in a number of ways as a child. And that made me quick to upset if someone wronged me or I saw an injustice happening. I had to always jump into action. Like, all right, this is for me to sort out. example, someone gropes a female friend of mine at a bar when we're out, I'm the one who has to go and punch the guy in the face. Not healthy responses, not healthy ways to deal with that situation, but what I felt was right.
Like the hero
Um,
complex you were talking about.
absolutely, absolutely. So I worked on that. Now that I've sort of put myself in a state of peace with who my kid is, and I've sort of, told him it's okay and that he doesn't need to worry anymore, and that I'm now in a position that no one's trying to harm me. Things are not happening to me; they're just happening in life, and I need to not hold on to them. Now that I've completely eradicated that voice in the head, the ego that just talks constantly, incessantly, you're not this, you're not that, you're not doing enough of this, you should be doing this, look at that person, they're doing this, blah, 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 blah. Just that self-loathing voice is gone. Um, I'm now in a position to emotionally regulate in all situations. I'll give you an example. I was meant to be married May of this year. I was in a relationship for 4.5 years with a woman, and the end of last year, maybe 4 months ago, 3.5, 4 months ago, she decided she didn't necessarily want to be in the relationship anymore. She wanted to focus on herself. I think the real reason being that she wanted to focus on her own career and her own life and her own process of evolution, and potentially just be single and enjoying what single life brings as well. Which makes sense to me. She didn't have much time between her previous relationship and our relationship, so she probably needed more time to enjoy that period. That was heartbreaking to me. When I found out some of the things, some of the reasons, and some of the stuff that had been going on in the background, I screamed and shouted. I said a lot of mean things. We had an argument. Uh, she was very upset, and I'm a big guy screaming and shouting about how angry I am. Now, I've never physically threatened anyone that I care about ever in my life, and never would. So there wasn't a threat of that, but me just being that angry and that upset and saying mean shit to try and hurt her in the way I felt hurt was emotional dysregulation that I
Mm,
don't ever want to repeat for the rest of my life with anyone
yeah.
that I care about.
Yeah.
So I've worked on it, and I now know with all certainty that that will never be an issue for me ever again. I will never.
Mm,
Now, some people, everyone I've spoken to has gone, if you were facing the reality that maybe she was looking elsewhere for affection, etc., I think it's pretty human for you to scream and shout, Jeff, and be upset. That's not unnormal.
mhm.
And I agree, it's not unnormal amongst society, but it's not how I want to be.
Right.
It's not. It's not. It was one of the last remaining shit parts of myself that I couldn't just be hurt and exist in a place of hurt and recognize hurt. I'm deeply hurt by what just happened. I need to be on my own. I need to remove myself from this person and go and walk around the block a few times, or even drive to a friend's house and go and stay there tonight and calm down and cry and breathe and work out how I feel about this experience and what I've learned and what I'm finding out about my partner. I need to be able to do those things. And then when I'm ready, as a mature 38-year-old bloke, then I need to go back and talk to this person and say, all right, what happened and what I've learned has hurt me. Here's my boundary. I think that's overstepped it. And I think you're right. We shouldn't be together. And I wish you'd told me this a few months ago, but, before I started booking wedding venues, but, you know, and so that's where I'm at now. I had a very real experience of it with a girl I was dating recently who got drunk and acted really mean and really nasty. Um, and I let her, and I felt pain, and I felt embarrassed, and I felt hurt by the way she was speaking, and disrespected in front of work colleagues, etc., and all these things. And instead of reacting, I just went, "Okay, I feel all those things, but that's all right. She's not doing this because she wants to hurt me. She's doing this because she's drunk and she doesn't have control over. She hasn't spoken to a therapist. That's why. So I need to recognize that, and it's okay to feel hurt, but then I'm not going to let myself react from a place of hurt. So
Mm,
I didn't. And then I spent, 24 hours calming myself and being in a good place. And then when she said, what's changed between us? I said, well, this thing happened and you said this thing. She didn't even remember saying it. And I was like, well, that's a problem as well. That's a red flag for me. So I think
yeah.
we're better off not spending time with each other. I wish you the best of success and, joy in your life. Now
Mm,
that's the way that I want to react to things that hurt me,
right.
with
Right.
control. That's something. Look, if you're in recovery as well, you mentioned that you live in a sober life. So I assume potentially you went through a process of recovery, and
Mm-hmm.
one of the biggest parts of it, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, and the power and wisdom to change the things I can. I do have power over. I have
Yes.
power over that of my own reactions. I have a choice. So
Mm-hmm.
now I can control that completely. That's emotional regulation for me. So
Mm-hmm.
that I've ticked off. The final thing is what I'm doing right now, which is just talking too much and too long and just not pausing and going, maybe I've already made my point. Let's just shut the fuck up.
It sounds like you've had a rough couple of years, and I just want to hug you.
Oh, thank you. I would absolutely happily accept that hug, and
Yeah,
knowing it comes from a loving mother as well of a beautiful child, that's that. I know it's going to be a good hug.
I
Mums know
just
how to give a good hug.
yeah, I think you're handling it all very maturely, but it does sound like there's been some pain there, and that is unfortunate. And if I have gathered the information correctly, it also sounds like you raised this person's child for 4.5 years.
No, sorry. That was a previous relationship from many years ago,
Okay, I
back in
wasn't
the
sure
UK.
because it was the
Although
four and a
that
half year
relationship,
time. So I was
yeah,
like, is this the same?
the end of that relationship was pretty miserable as well. And I was told I couldn't see or speak to the little girl because she wasn't mine. She's
Yeah,
not yours. You can't speak to her.
yeah,
Which that crushed me because
yeah,
I think there's a child there who's going to now think that the two men who should have loved her most in the world just up and left. She's going to have
yeah.
abandonment issues, but um,
Out of your control.
out of my control.
Mm,
Absolutely. So, and at the time I didn't accept that. I kept sending Christmas presents, birthday presents, and stuff like that, and they all got sent back to me. It was a nightmare.
mm,
But
wow, you've been on a
yeah,
path.
yeah, yeah.
Um, what is your biggest asset?
What's my biggest asset? Empathy. I try and find connection in everything I do, especially my comedy now. Whether it's getting on stage and telling some dick jokes at the Comedy Cellar in Las Vegas, but still trying to make every single show personal to the audience that's there, and find human connection in the material that I talk about. Aging, love, loss, grief, heartbreak. Those are the subject matters I care about talking about because I think they bring people close together. That you can laugh, and then hopefully people walk away from that going, you know what, made me think a bit about my breakup, and oh yeah, maybe you had a couple of points there. Maybe there was an intelligent subtext to that dick joke. You know what I mean? For real,
If you pivot out of, are you going to continue doing comedy to come
Yeah,
full
I think
circle?
it's a service.
Yeah.
I think making people laugh. Here's what I realized: the most valuable thing when we go back to everything we've talked about over the podcast. I don't put money as a value. It's just a freedom for me. It's just a way to a gateway to be able to do some of the stuff that I want to do. Um, the most valuable thing any person can give you is their time.
Mm-hmm. I
So
agree.
every time I step on stage, before I go on stage, I remind myself, even if I'm having a terrible day, or I'm like, oh, whatever, or there's a small audience tonight, or oh, those people were shit faced and they're shouting out at the other comics or whatever. I remind myself, every single person here has given me this 15 to 1 hour time period for me to
Mm-hmm.
entertain them. And they are genuinely here to laugh.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So be
I feel that.
grateful.
Yeah, I feel that way about everything I do. If they read something, if they listen to something, being on stage, I always
Comment on your
feel,
podcast episode,
yeah,
share something that you've
share it.
made.
I
Yeah.
always feel very humbled by any time anyone grants me any attention. It really is the most precious commodity that we have, is that
Because you
the
can't get that
time.
back. Money comes and
Yep.
goes. Items, products, anything like everything else you can replace.
Mm-hmm.
Time, you'll never get those 15 minutes back when you're watching someone do stand.
Yeah. My little Buddhist reading yesterday was about how the moment, that the moment you born, you begin to die. The moment
Yeah,
you're born, you begin to die, and to kind of just keep that center to your life experience. And it's hard. It's hard.
absolutely.
We have a lot of things pulling at us at all times. And I feel like I have been reminded today in general but just by this podcast too, which is just reinforcing something I was feeling right before we even started talking, which is I'm not taking that time every day, which it used to be a practice for me in motherhood. Just, I have big intentions. Watch your entire show. Baby wakes up crying. Like I'm not in control of my time.
I can't believe I got heckled by a fucking toddler. Unbelievable.
It's a very strange thing for someone who is single as long as I was to have like a manager of my time. She's the CEO of my time now. And now she started talking and she'll be like, walk with me. I'm like, I feel like I'm about to get fired as your mom. Walk with me.
I'm sure you seem like you're a wonderful mom. You're very dedicated to your child, so I'm sure that's not going to happen. But
it's funny though. But it is
you're not
strange.
in control of that. Hey, listen, I mean, maybe one day she will fire you for a period of time. Maybe she will become a dramatic teenager who doesn't want you to be in her life for a minute.
Yeah, almost inevitable.
If that happens, you just have to keep sharing love and leaving that door open for that. And as long as she knows she has that, then that's what you
Well, where can we find you? I am going to finish your special and blast it out. Where can we find you?
I'd love to know what you think of it once you've watched the whole thing, actually.
Yeah.
So I guess I would like to maybe push people towards a couple of different things. One would be the comedy spectacular. So it's called Jeff Leach Presents a Comedy Spectacular. It is available free on YouTube, on my YouTube channel, Jeff Leach. youtube.com/Jeff Leach TV. That's JEFFLEACH. And then also I've got a brand new podcast of my own, actually, called Comic Cougar Convo with my very dear friend, who is an award-winning sex worker and the internet's stepmom, Cherie DeVille. And
I love her.
She's amazing.
She's been on the podcast.
Oh, is she?
Yeah.
Oh, amazing. Yeah. So she's one of my best mates. We play Dungeons and Dragons together every week.
Oh, really?
And, yeah. We're a couple of nerds. Yeah.
My husband's hugely into Dungeons and Dragons.
Oh, it's magical. You should, if you have not yet created a character, that would be a lovely little bit of respite from being a mum and a fun way to
I want him to teach all of us. Yeah.
You should.
He's so into it. He's just, he wants to start playing again so badly.
Oh, he doesn't play in a regular match or
not really
game,
because he was playing online and then it was very hard for everybody to find that time, and it's like that meme, how do you get all these people? But now he's been I think that's kind of like his dream, is to get back into
he should become a DM and run his own game, and
then that's what he normally is. So I think that's more what he's used to, and he's definitely like a nerdy. I know nothing about it, but he's got the, miniatures and like all kinds
so much fun.
Yeah,
so much
he loves
fun.
it.
It's escapism. It's a clean form of escapism,
Yeah.
And you get to socialize and have community, and it's beautiful.
Yeah, and it really, like, he thinks it's this he's explained it to me as like the purest form of storytelling. Yeah. Just how you can create these worlds and stories and
fun to play with performers, by the way, and entertainers. Like a bunch of we have a magician, we have 2 porn actors, we have a guy work for SpaceX. We got a bunch of like really interesting creative people. We've got an animation artist in there, and it's fun. It's fun and funny. But yeah, you should absolutely kick it off with him and be a part of your campaign together. And you could even have the baby there with you. That's not something you have to you don't have to put your baby down to do that. You can have your baby on your knee, being part of it, chewing on the end of maybe not chewing on the miniatures, because some of them are made out of lead. I don't want to be responsible for
no. What's the what's your podcast about?
It's a conversation between 2 best friends who are very nerdy about all facets of life. So we have a different jump off subject matter each time, and we dress thematically to the episode. We have a set design thematically to the episode that we're discussing. But we the first sort of 6 episodes, for instance, kind of span such a vast array of subject matters. The first one was guns. We've got episodes on money, the future, strip clubs, prostitution, video games, beauty, food, and it'll be an ongoing series. So it's a weekly installment. It's available free on YouTube, again on youtube.com/@Comic Cougar Convo. And then there's a Patreon page as well if they want episodes early. And then I'm just at Jeff Leach on all social media as well. So if you want to say hello, please do.
Yeah, tell Cherie I said hi. She was fantastic on the podcast, and it was really funny because she was writing about, the porn industry has always been ahead of like the financial MasterCard shutting things down, and now
Absolutely,
conservatives are starting to see this and trying to create this parallel economy, et cetera, et cetera. And it was really funny listening to a lot of my people who might lean more conservative talking about how much common ground they had with her in this department. It's like where the conservatives and the porn stars are like that meme shaking hands, like parallel. Come on. Yeah.
It's almost as if we're all more alike than we are different,
Yeah.
That's my, that's the sort of the motto for my life, I think, at this stage.
I love that. That's a great place to end.
Yeah.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you for letting me come on and talk. I appreciate you.
I appreciate you. It's time for the weekly check-in with Bridget and Cousin Maggie. It's the end of an era as we know it. It's the end. I mean, who's really listening to this check-in?
A lot of people say the check-in's their favorite part, but, that's probably still a small number of people.
It's like 10 people.
Yes. So the announcement is
the death of the check-in. No, it's not going to die. We're just going to put it behind the paywall. There will be no more check-in on the front-facing Walk-Ins Welcome podcast. We are putting it behind the paywall at Phetasy.com.
Yes. And we're not guaranteeing every week, maybe once a month.
So we don't bore you with our chat about the weather.
Yeah, it's time. We're just making Walk-Ins Welcome a straight conversation with Bridget and her guest.
Yeah, we don't need the check-in.
No one needs to hear about our stupid daily lives.
It is more personal too, and I feel like all that stuff should just go behind a paywall. It feels like that should be extra content for people who want to know more, and they should have to pay for it.
Agreed.
Look, people, I've got to make some money. If you want to hear about what I'm cooking for dinner tonight, then you need to go subscribe to Phetasy.com.
If you want to hear about the new furniture I got for my apartment, you've got to go subscribe.
Yep. It'll be... No, I love the check-in. I just think it deserves to be in its own special place.
Yeah, I agree. And it's also just like we initially started it because the person who basically wanted you to do the podcast was like, oh, I thought it would be more about like you and your daily life. So
I was like, why did we start the check-in?
Do the check-in so that people could get like a taste of you and your daily life along with your guests. But now I think Walk-Ins Welcome is established as what it is. And I don't think we need, like, the check-in feels kind of tacked on at the end.
Yeah, I agree. It's just kind of, I was thinking about that. Why did we start it? I was like, why did I start this? And it was kind of something I did in my very first podcast. We always started with a check-in, which that was more of that kind of podcast anyway.
Right. You were talking about your personal dating lives and stuff like that.
Yeah. And this one, it just doesn't really match. I mean, we don't need it. We don't even need to put it behind the paywall. I feel less and less like sharing my personal life with the world too.
Right.
Because I'm doing so much other stuff, and I actually think the place where it's the strongest is for me comedy and writing. So when I do get personal, generally it's in writing or it's in comedy, and that's, I guess, like sometimes I'll use the check-in to flesh out a bit or something will come out of it, but I can do that by myself, like Bill Burr. And just sit and rant about my day. What about traffic? What's the deal with traffic?
Truly like invested in the check-in and you're not a subscriber and you subscribe to Phetasy.com specifically, you need to tell us, like, I subscribe specifically to get the check-in.
Tell us that you're subscribing for the check-in.
Otherwise, we might do away with it entirely. But for now, I can see us doing it like maybe like a monthly check-in.
Yeah. We're slowly dialing.
We're just too busy.
No, we
we're
are.
trying to
And
get-
people say
we're
that.
trying to get
I
focused.
forget about it until people point it out. They're like, you're doing a
trying to
lot
get-
of things.
Yeah, we're trying to streamline what we are producing and making it like a better, sleeker version of all of the main content that we're making. So the kind of side stuff needs to fall away.
We're cutting out all the fat.
Yep. So
there you have it.
Anyway.
So this will be our last check-in.
Last check-in on Walk-ins Welcome. Dun, dun, dun. I feel like we should have like some maybe we should play taps.
Do, do, do. Do. Some veteran will be like, how dare you?
And do we end on that?
Yes.
This has been Walk-ins Welcome with Bridget Phetasy. I'm Bridget Phetasy, and you're welcome. It's the dumbest line.